Rajdeep, the Parivarwaad issue is something, we've seen used plentifully. It's not a new barb that has been used by the BJP or the Prime Minister to attack the opposition. How do you see it in the current context just weeks before the next election?
Shiv, the template the Prime Minister has set is more or less identical over the last few years. If you look at it, Majboor Sarkar versus what he says is a Majboor Sarkar. A strong government versus coalition governments. He uses the word Mili Juli here. You've seen his claim of Modi ki guarantee, trying to get people to vote for the Prime Minister, not necessarily the BJP, but have trust in the Prime Minister when he makes a commitment. And the same with Parivarwaad. What is he doing? He's essentially contrasting his claim that he and his party represent, he believes, a certain meritocracy versus his rivals, especially in the India Alliance, many regional parties, as well as the Congress party, his principal adversary, which he wants to suggest are family courts. So this has been the template the Prime Minister has set over the last decade. And he's simply following that on, primarily because I don't think the opposition has been able to offer an alternative narrative which is compelling enough. Because they've not been able to offer that alternative narrative, the Prime Minister knows he's sticking to his game. This has been his game plan. The others have to now find something new to disrupt the Prime Minister's game plan. And because they've not been able to do that successfully enough yet, he is someone who is sticking to the very template that enabled him to achieve success in 2019. He mentioned Parivarwaad then. He's mentioning it now again.
Sanjay, do you want to add something to that? The Parivarwaad attack is not new, and the fact that the Prime Minister still uses it in his interviews and speeches and rallies suggests that there's been no effective counter to that. We've seen the opposition, the Congress especially, try and say, look who's talking, the BJP has its own dynasties, etc., etc. But that has never really found any traction or credibility in the same way that it does when the Prime Minister points a finger at the Congress party and says, Parivarwaad.
Shiv, you have a point there. I think the opposition has not been able to actually give a rejoinder, especially when Mr. Modi's party actually has Maneka Gandhi and Varun Gandhi, two famous Gandhis who are part of the BJP. So, and if you have the long list of people from Piyush Goyal down to Devendra Fadnavis, etc., there are more dynastic leaders today in the BJP than the Congress. But you're absolutely right. This point needs to be articulated. But I have a couple of short points here to make. If Mr. Modi is indeed, uttering, these lovely platitudes to your newspaper, why isn't he holding a press conference? Why, for example, would he hesitate from addressing the media and the public at large? Why isn't this interview, or where we are talking about his quotes, playing out on the camera on India Today?
No, but we've asked him every question in this interview, as you will see.
Yeah. So let me make a few points. I think it lacks credibility to a great extent. And, his guarantee, whatever, I think these are standard trope. Anyone with a discerning eye will know that, frankly speaking, he said nothing new at all. But there are 2 points I wish to make, because I heard, Ashok say about growth. Do people know that in the last 4 years, or rather 5 years since 2019, India's GDP has been just 3.5%. That is India's GDP. And therefore, the logic why the opposition keeps talking about, and this government runs away from it, on unemployment, on food inflation in particular, on the farmer distress. Look at the 4 factors that Narendra Modi talked about as his big quote, right? My forecasts are poverty. Do you know the number of people below poverty line today? At a very conservative estimate, it's around 250 million.
Okay.
Farmers, he talked about farmers. We saw what the farmers went through for a 1-year-long strike and what were the consequences of that. He talks of youth. Look at the unemployment there. And he talks of women. Look at Sakshi Malik episode to look at how we treat women in this country and how Mr. Modi has protected his own BJP leader. So I think let's cut out this, shibboleths and slogans. Bottom line, I believe this has been a dark decade. I hope the people of India are able to see through it. But I'll agree with you. It's up to the Congress and the India Alliance to be able to change the narrative.
Okay.
If they do, I still think we have a story in 2024.
Ashok, you want to come in? You want to say something on that?
Look, two things here. One, I've spoken about inflation, not growth, but I take the larger point that has been made, and I'd like to answer that. I think this has been, especially the past 4 years, have been a very, very challenging period for the global economy, not just the Indian economy, the global economy. Every budget that Mr. Modi's second government has come up with has to be reworked because of global challenges. The COVID pandemic, the Russia-Ukraine war, the lockdown, the geopolitical impact of the China-US breakdown. A number of issues have come up, and now, of course, the Middle Eastern war. So every single budget almost has had to be reworked and relooked at. And yet, through this period, I think food inflation has been managed fairly well. I'm not suggesting it's been perfect, but it's been managed fairly well. His record on inflation is better than the UPA's, with due respects. And in terms of growth, in terms of restructuring the economy, believe me, I work with business now, and I'm hearing and seeing more interest in manufacturing now than previously.
Okay. And
this is not to say previous governments did not try, and this is not to say it's all been done and everything has been achieved. It's a long, multi-year, multi-decade process to make India a manufacturing economy. But you're seeing the beginnings of that now. If you look at infrastructure and logistics, the improvement in the past 10 years is astounding. And that is a building block to a deeper manufacturing economy going ahead.